Anyway, am I on?
You're on.
Oh, well, that's lovely.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Denny Sargent, and there was a bit of a schedule mix-up. So there are a number of things I wanted to show you, but I'm not going to show them to you. So I'm here to talk to you about Werewolf Magic. I want to start by saying that, let's see, I think I have my book here. Yeah, that's a good thing. All right. This is the book where it comes from, Werewolf Magic. And I want to talk a little bit about it, and I actually have quite a bit to say about it. So we're going to move right on. I want to start with if I seem a little bit off kilter, it's because, again, I was expecting to be teaching tomorrow. I have a schedule that is off, so it's okay. I'm just going to wing it a little bit. It'll be very pagan. It will be not quite perfectionist, but that's fine. That's exactly where I'm at in terms of Werewolf Magic, so all is well. So I'd like everybody to start. I want to start, and it's going to be good for me too. I want to start with a visualization exercise. Is everybody there with me? You can just raise your hand if you are. Yeah? So everyone's muted but me.
Yes.
Oh, that's so much more exciting than when I usually teach university classes where I can't mute anybody, so it's really nice that I can talk without anybody interrupting me. I enjoy that. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. The first thing I want you to do, and we're going to get real primitive here because I'm just going to write it out since I can't find my images. I am going to be uploading all of the notes for this lecture and this workshop on my blog. It is very simple. Werewolf Magic with a K.com. All you have to do is remember werewolfmagic.com. And I will, or maybe Nancy could put this in the comments so that you can have it.
Well.
Werewolfmagic with a K.com. I will have I have a 14-page set of notes for this presentation. Clearly, I will not be getting through all those 14 pages, but to fill in what's there and to truly give you an idea of what this is about, I want you to have access to my notes because I have a lot to say. I've spent a lot of time preparing for this. Anyway, let's start with a simple meditation, all right? I'd like you all to simply breathe. That includes myself. Breathe deeply, let it go. Breathe deeply, let it go. Breathe deeply. Let everything go. Now, keep your eyes closed. You are in a deep forest, a forest you have been to in the past. It is powerful and healing. You are alone. There are no people anywhere near you. There are animals. It is sunny. It is warm. You are naked. You are completely safe. You feel your toes dig into the warm earth. And you can feel the energy of the Earth Mother beneath you. And as you breathe in, you feel and you can sense that energy flowing up into you. The forest flows into you. The green energy of the forest with every breath flows in and revitalizes you. You are one with the ecosystem. You can reach out your aura and you can feel the many webs of energy flowing and moving. You can start to see the energy patterns around you. A vast web of interconnectedness of life, power. With each breath, you relax your armor, your human, always thinking, always pondering, armor and confusion, and your mind goes still, and you let the power of the forest and the power of Mother Earth fill you until your monkey mind is silent. Now, your conscious mind is quiet. You go down inside yourself. You are sinking down past your conscious mind, past your autonomic nervous system, past all the things that don't matter that you spend a lot of time thinking about. Just you're flowing down, down, down into the soft, safe, quiet darkness. And there is a cave. You are completely safe. You are simply existing. You go into that cave and there is a beast. There is an animal. You can't really see it clearly, but it is covered in fur and it is sleeping. And you know it well. You reach out and touch the fur, and you feel a stirring. You feel love for this beast. You have forgotten this beast. It is your animal self, but you have been so busy thinking and working and planning and driving and all the crazy things that we think are important that you have let this beast fall asleep. When you were a child, this beast would come and fill you. When you were playing in wild games in the woods or with friends, remember those days. Slowly the beast wakes up. It remembers you. You reach out and you put your arms around this warm, loving, protective beast. And it flows into you because it is part of you. You slowly rise up and the shadows and darkness pass, but the beast is filling you now. Now you are standing in the forest. Your mind is silent, for the beast has taken control of your body. Now you can feel Gaia. You can hold out your hands and you are interconnected with the life force that weaves throughout all of the forest. The sun speaks to you. The moon, which is not visible, speaks to you. The earth speaks to you. All the animals in the forest pause and recognize you as kin. You are one with your animal self. You have freed it from the cage. And now you have a choice. You can live with it, or you can suppress it again. It is up to you. In this state of calm, I want you just to listen to what I have to say. In this culture, we have been cut off from nature and convinced that we are not the animals that we are. Think about when you talk about animals. You talk about them as if we are separate from them. Here is the truth. We are animals. We are Homo sapiens. We are primates. We are 98% genetically the same as chimpanzees. And yet, everything in our culture and everything in our language separates us from animals. We say children are acting like animals, or it's like a zoo in here. When someone says, "Oh, you are such an animal," it is a negative connotation. The answer is to reclaim our forgotten animal self through ancient techniques of primal feral magic, as described in my book, but much wider than my book, in all shamanic cultures and all tribal cultures. Chief Sealth, when he wrote a final goodbye to the white man, one of the things he said was, "You are destroying our fellow people. You are ignoring the animals. We have learned everything from the animals, for they are our friends. They are our elders." By separating ourselves from nature, we have resigned ourselves to being unhappy, and we will never feel fulfilled until we fully and completely, not intellectually, not in ritual, but in everyday life, live as animals within our ecosystem. If we were as conscious as Native Americans, as shamans I met from Siberia, as shamans I've met from Guatemala, if we were as daily conscious of our animal self and embody it as a positive and important part of ourselves, we would not be so miserable. We would not feel so lonely. We would not allow our nature to be destroyed and polluted, our food to be poisoned. We would react as most animals do, and we would either flee or we would reject it. The only way for us to truly reverse the horrors that are happening is not through political action. It's through working on our own wall. And the wall is between who we really are and the belief that has been programmed into us by Judeo-Christian culture that we are separate from animals, we are separate from nature, and made in God's image to do with nature and animals as we want. We've been taught by hundreds of years of Western culture that animals do not feel, that they are not living conscious beings, that they are for slaughtering, they are for hunting for sport, they are for putting in cages or for breeding as if they were some sort of thing. It's a mechanistic view of life. That all is part of our culture. You cannot escape it. If you live in this culture, you have been programmed this way. Very briefly, I'm going to tell you what happened to me, and then I'm going to launch into a bit of a history of what I'm talking about and how I got to where I am with this. We're going to do some work. We're going to do some serious work with this. I lost everything in my life except my life about 4 years ago. I had a huge disastrous situation happen. I lost my house, lost my relationship, lost everything, my money, my job, everything. I was on the edge of absolutely breaking. had very bad thoughts, and just had given up on everything completely. I reached a point of frenzy and anger and sorrow and depression where I knew I was just going to break in half. I threw all my stuff, including some camping stuff, in a car, and I drove up into the mountains. I live in Seattle. Drove up into the wilderness, absolute wilderness. Without a thought, I was completely deranged, having some sort of psychotic break. And I just went flying into the woods, ripped off all my clothes, and lost my shit completely. That was actually one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. By ripping myself to pieces, by tearing my ego into shreds, and simply throwing myself into nature, and with a massive howling plea, save me, the nature did. I was filled with a wolf spirit, and the image of it is a three-eyed wolf, and you'll see it in my stuff. But a wolf spirit came to me and saved me and said, you called and I came. And I went completely non-intellectual. I lost track of time. I don't remember a lot of things. But when I came out of it, I was in touch with my animal self. It was a brutal, vicious, really difficult way to do it. But I came back an utterly, completely reborn person, and I feel 100% better. And I have a lot of amazing side effects from this. This started my book, Werewolf Magic. I talk more about all of this stuff. So everybody laughs when they see Werewolf Magic. Like, okay, what is that about? I started doing work. I was not planning to write a book. I started researching like what the hell had happened to me, and why was I all of a sudden, I look 10 years younger than I did. I feel 10 years younger than I did. I'm much more vital. I have a lot more energy, and I've got a million different things going on in my life. My view is unobtrusively positive. You will hear my dog. I have a dog. So what is this about? I started researching and finding out that this is not an unusual thing. I dug out my notes from interviewing. I interviewed shamans, real shamans, who are from Siberia. They're called the Nani Doro. And I have, that is also in my, on my webpage, on my blog. You will see an interview with the Nani Doro I did in the 1990s. And I found out about what real shamanism was, and how, as they said, why would anyone want to be a shaman? It's a miserable life because the spirits are always bothering you, and you're often tired, and you have a lot of energy, and people come to you for illnesses, and it's a powerful thing, but it's not an easy thing. But I learned some great wisdom from them, and from Nadia Ajda. She said, I said, how do you connect with your animal spirit, with your animal self? And she said, every step I take on the earth is a prayer of gratitude. You here in America are not grateful. You do not feel gratitude for everything the earth gives you. You have forgotten that everything you have, the earth gives you. And until you have that, you are lost. And I thought, oh yeah, okay, that's very wise. But now I'm in a state of consciousness where I realize she's 100% correct. By cutting ourselves off from nature, we have cut ourselves off from what makes us whole. So I started researching. So this whole wolf thing, this wolf spirit guided me with this. So I started going out into the woods every full moon, ripping off my clothes and howling, growling, doing all this stuff, and starting to write rituals that just came to me because I wasn't sure, what am I doing here and how am I doing this and what's going on? So Werewolf Magic is essentially the magical workbook of 4 years of me working with this. Now, I didn't introduce myself, but I've been involved in occult work for 40 years. I'm an initiated tantric from 40 years ago. I was in a Welsh traditional coven for many years in the 70s. I've been involved in magic and many different occult things. This is my world. I've written 14 books now. They're all listed on my blah, 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 blah. They're all listed on my page. Remember, werewolfmagic.com. That's where you want to go. Also, you can write me through there, werewolfmagic.com. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm one of those people that loves to talk to people. So I started looking at werewolves because I've always been I started to feel on the full moons as I was going through this that I was transforming into a werewolf and going to a completely non-verbal state and coming out of it as such. So I started looking at the werewolf cults and I was like, okay, is there a real thing here? Is this just Hollywood or what? Lo and behold, there have been werewolf cults since prehistory. I'm gonna walk you through them. I have all the information that you need down. I'm looking for my okay. I gotta keep track of the time. Again, I apologize. I wasn't planning to teach today. There was a bit of a cross wire, so I want to make sure that I am staying on track time-wise. All right. So let's talk about it. We know what werewolves are, but what we don't know is that they're a major part of our culture. And there are around the world, there are were-tigers in China, Southeast Asia. There are were-foxes and were-tanukis, raccoon dogs in Japan. There are okami, which are wolf gods in Japan, which are worshipped at shrines. In Morocco, when I traveled to Morocco, I found out there are were-jackals, and they quite seriously told me that they run in genetic lines, usually iron workers. I don't know why. So I started to suddenly realize that shape-shifting existed everywhere, in every country. And most cultures, not Western cultures, but many other cultures, for example, I lived in Japan for 4 years. Japanese believe in were culture, in were beings. They believe, truly believe, that certain people can shift into animal form. There are a lot of Shinto priests who are shamanic in nature, who work with animal spirits and transform into animal spirits and astral project into animal spirits. I've traveled to 30 countries, virtually every country I've ever been to. There are mysteries and magics involved in whatever. In our culture, it's werewolves because wolves are the primary predator. And in Europe, in northern Europe and Northern Asia, and where we are from, our culture, they are the primary predator, and therefore this seems to be something wherever you go in the world, it's the primary predator that people work for or work towards. The oldest shamanic, the oldest shape-shifting image is 45,000 years old. Was found in Portugal in a cave. You've probably seen cave paintings from the Lacroix caves of the magician of shapeshifters. This is part of our culture that has been erased, is that through most of our history in the Western culture, shapeshifting has been a major important part of magic, including witchcraft. And I'm going to get to that. The first werewolf was found in, was stated in the Epic of Gilgamesh. A man who fell in love with Inanna or Ishtar, kept bothering her, and as punishment, she turned him into a werewolf, and his dogs chased him away. The most important, the earliest or the most well-known werewolf cult was on Mount Lycaon in Greece. And this temple goes all the way back into prehistory. They're not sure how old. They figure 7,000 to 8,000 years. Mount Lycaon means wolf mountain. Some of you probably know the story of the werewolf up there on Mount Lycaon. Mount Lycaon became a temple to Zeus. There's a whole story. There was a man named Lycaius, means wolf god. There was a man named Lycaius who was the high priest. And it's to cut a long story short, he was involved in cannibalism, and in fact, they're doing archaeological work there, and they have found evidence of cannibalism. And he knew the god Zeus was coming, and he didn't trust this god. So he came in human form, and you tested him by giving him, this is the story, this is the later story, and giving him some human flesh. Zeus, of course, noticed it immediately, and as punishment, this is the story, turned him into a werewolf for 9 years. I dug deep on this one. Essentially, what we have here is we have a temple that for thousands of years was a cult center for werewolf priests. And throughout history, we have a lot of the term werewolf in various languages is what these priests are called. It was the god that was worshipped there was the wolf god and the wolf spirit, the spirit of the wild. At a certain point, that temple was taken over by the cult of Zeus, who then became known as Lachaean Zeus, meaning wolfish Zeus. Again, I'm just going to skip through this. I just want to show you that there is this amazing, deep history of quote unquote werewolfism as a, how can I say this? As a sort of cover, or it's been painted over for a vibrant lineage of shape-shifting and occult activity throughout history. So just down the mountain from the temple of Zeus Lachaeus was the temple of Pan Lachaeus, Pan being one of the oldest gods we know of, actually, older than the Hellenic gods and coming out of Arcady. I'm sure you all know Pan, so we can move on from there. There was also Apollo was shown in the form of a wolf and was known as Lachaean Apollo. Plato mentioned King Lachaean as a protector of the wolf god temple. Ovid talks about this story. The Greek historian Agrippos relates the famous athlete Democritus supposedly assisted at a sacrifice at the temple and was turned into a werewolf for 9 years. He then recovered and was a champion at the Olympic Games. There are many, many, many stories of people turning into werewolves and then coming out of it. What we're looking at here is a shamanic magical tradition that goes on and on. In Scythia, what is Russia today, in 425 BC, Herodotus talked about the Nurai, who he called magical men, an entire tribe that changed into werewolves every year. The Nurai are sorcerers, and each Nurian changes himself once a year into the form of a wolf. And he continues in that form for several days, and then he resumes his former shape. We have looked at these stories and thought they were rather silly or rather fanciful. What we're looking at here is people who intentionally, through magic, through stress and intensity and power, maybe sexual magic, whatever, have managed to unlock their animal self, push their ego to the side for a time, and let the animal self come to the fore. And physically, in some cases, some physical transformation, but absolutely mental and so on. I stumbled upon this, as I told you, and then I went back and looked and I saw I was not alone. This was a core part of a lot of magical systems. The Romans were all about the wolves. Rome was founded by a wolf, Lupa. And the Roman, here's a great story. The Romans all knew werewolves, and they all knew about werewolves. The Roman historian Petronius recorded a story of a soldier who went with him one night for protection. He was a merchant at that time, and he was going through the countryside at night, and so he hired a Roman soldier to go with him. As night fell, the man began to converse with the stars, began talking to the stars, tore off his clothes, turned into a wolf, and disappeared. Petronius talks quite a bit about the fact he was kind of shocked by this, and he was like, well, now what do I do? So he just continued on till he found a farmhouse, knocked on the door, and all hell had broken loose at the farmhouse. An animal had gotten in and was killing some of the livestock, but one of the farmhands had managed to throw a spear and wound the animal. They thought it was a wolf in the neck. Petronius went, did his business, came back to Rome, went to find the soldier, went to his house to give him hell for disappearing on him, found him lying in bed with a wound on his neck. And he says at that point, I saw at once that he was a versipelus, a skin changer, and never again could I eat bread with him. I'm picking and choosing stories, but I have found thousands of these stories. Romans believed that people could shift. Norse believed, Vikings believed people could shift. Celts believed people could shift. All of them had werewolves, and all of them actually looked up to werewolves. Where the werewolf cults were often involved in warrior. The Roman Legion was full of people who had gone through the werewolf mysteries. Mars and Ares both have a wolf as their icon. The Roman legions, when they went into war, carried what was called, let me see if I get it, the Curious Lupus, a staff of the wolf of Mars that they believe gave them victory. The greatest festival in Rome was the Lupercalia, which some of you might have heard of. And it's coming up. It's actually syncs with Valentine's Day, which is another conversation. So we are at the beginning of Lupercalia right now, actually. Lupercalia was the coolest festival ever. It was about drinking, wild sex, and complete insanity. The people who ran Lupercalia were called Luperci, meaning werewolves, werewolf priests. They began Lupercalia by going down under the hill where the shrine of Lupa and the foundation of Rome was. And they went through a ritual where they became animals. They became possessed. They shapeshifted. They killed a goat, they wore the goat skin, and then they stripped pieces of the goat and turned it into sort of straps to hit people with. They were marked with the blood of the goat and also the milk of a lamb. It is and also the blood of a dog. At the beginning of this festival, it was very likely the blood of a wolf. So they went through this ritual and then burst out of the cave, howling like crazy wolves and running around the town for 4 days of drunken debauchery, whipping young men and young women who wanted fertility, who would all come out and stick their butts out or whatever. And this went on forever. Now, the funny, I mean, the god of that festival was just generally called Lupercus, but that just means wolf god. Digging deeper again, I have something like 92 books on werewolves, so I'm covered on the werewolf department. They think the god's name was Faunus, F-A-U-N-U-S, who is the Roman Pan. The difference between Faunus and Pan is that Faunus was also the god of wolves. He protected the flocks from wolves, but he himself had the power of shapeshifting and being a wolf. So that the funny, of course, the funny part is that when Christianity took over and they tried to stop Lupercalia, the people of Rome refused to stop Lupercalia. So they changed it to the Festival of the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary, which is, I'm sorry, funny to me. But they then that didn't work very well apparently, because then apparently there's a lot of evidence that they changed it to St. Valentine's Day, the festival of what? Right? Well, it's actually the festival of wild sex, but that's fine, whatever. There was another werewolf cult, and I won't spend too much more time on this, but I just want to show you that there's this long history. The cult priests were called werewolves, which is Hiripi Sorani. This was the temple of Soranus in the volcanic area of northern Italy. This is an interesting cult because they used to do fire walking. They're the only temple in all of ancient Rome and all the Roman provinces that did fire walking, and they did it as a sacrifice, as a way to show that the animal spirit had filled them and and that they were skin changers. I can spend easily an hour talking about the Vikings and the Norse and shapeshifting. I assume all of you know berserkers. Berserkers comes from the term bersark, meaning to wear a wolf skin. But berserkers were not the only berserkers. There were two kinds of berserkers, bersark and ulfsark. Ulfsark were werewolves. And many, not most, but many of the rulers of the Vikings had the name Ulfsark or Ulf attached to their name, meaning they were shapeshifters. The mightiest warriors were a combination of Seder, which are sorcerers, and shapeshifters. If you're interested in any of this stuff, all you have to do is read some of the ancient documents, some of the sagas. The sagas which survived in Iceland, thank goodness, because Christianity tried to wipe them all out, have hundreds of stories about shapeshifting. And even when I went to Sweden not too long ago, they still strongly believe in that. And the Icelandic people do too, because I talked to them. We were just in talking about Norse religion. They were like, oh yeah, we have shapeshifting at the time. I was like, well, that's nice. So they have a whole set of vocabulary around that. Skipa homum is romping through the countryside as a werewolf. They were called Igai and Hammer, or those not of one skin, or skin changers. It goes on and on and on. Odin was the master of ecstasy. He was also the god of shapeshifting. There's a lot of, once you start looking, you find this stuff everywhere. The Valkyries, who came down to get the honored dead, rode on wolves. So the wolf god and the wolf power and all of this was very powerful and very potent. I'm whipping through this because I've got too much stuff here, right? So one of the things that I did find in a couple of places, especially in the Norse stuff, was their descriptions of shapeshifting was much more in line with shamanic practices and was actually very, very clear. They talked about the fact that people who actually were going into this, there were two ways that they did it. One, they took the skin upon themselves, like berserkers, who became much stronger, much more potent, much more intense, and felt no pain and could just whip through the British armies. Like one berserker could kill hundreds of Brits, and it's because they were possessed by their full animal self, whether it was a wolf or a bear. The second way they did it, and the setter or the sorcerers would go into a coma, project their double or their astral form, enter it, and run around as a wolf. They have very specific names for both of these types of shapeshifting, and lots of stories. You can look in the notes on my page, and you'll see I have citations. I have all this stuff. In my book, I have a huge bibliography, and I clearly went nuts on this, right? But I wanted to know what was going on with me and how I could further it and move it further. All of this work, what it led me to was techniques for shapeshifting. There are three kinds of shapeshifting that I discovered personally. One is you let the animal self arise in you, you suppress your conscious thought, and you all of a sudden are opened up to a whole new world, and you have a whole different perception, and you have a lot of quote unquote wolfish superpowers that I'm going to talk about. One is being able to see at night in the dark. I went from not being able to see very little to be able to, some of the things I do, just so you understand, sometimes I'll go up into the forest, like real wilderness. I'll build a fire, create my campsite. I'll do the ritual work, which I lay out in my book, and tear off all my clothes, but I'll wear a pair of moccasins. I learned the hard way. And I'll go roaming in the forest at night with no trouble. I can see, once I'm in that state, I can see everything clearly. I've snuck up on a deer and scared the hell out of it. I snuck up on a raccoon and scared the hell out of it. I could jump in the brooks and it was cold and it didn't bother me at all. And I would come back, I'd be up all night, and I'd go through the process of coming back in my body, rest for a while, and then I'd feel twice as good as I did before. I could show you a picture of me now and a picture of me 4 years ago, and you'd be surprised. We have cut ourselves off from the source of youth and vitality by not connecting with our ecosystem, by not truly, not here, but truly connecting with our ecosystem so that we feel it. So I won't go further with all the werewolf cults. I could go on and on and on. I could go on about the Druids. I could talk about the Irish tribes who all shift into werewolves. In the Celtic world, werewolf was a title of great honor. It meant you were a great honor. The word cu, you probably know the word cu, cu, if you're into Celtic stuff, means dog often, but it also meant wolf. People don't realize that dog and wolf were interchanged a lot. The Druids were able to shapeshift into wolves. This is kind of interesting. During the spread of Christianity in Mercia in the 10th century, long after the Christians had come, there was a revival in the teachings of pagan learning led by two archdruids, one named Werewolf, W-E-R-W-U-L-F. There are werewolves in Ireland or England, if you go there, have actually a really positive PR. In Scotland, there are wolvers, which are werewolves that help travelers who are lost and are well known to be great fishers. And they fish and leave fish for people who are poor. I am not making this up. Go on YouTube, you can find it. Let's talk about witchcraft. I assume a lot of you who are involved in witchcraft or in paganism. When the church came in and did their best to completely destroy all pagan religions, all shamanic religions, all shape-shifting, all magic, and put everyone under the church. One of the things I found out in my researches is virtually almost all, about 80% of men and women who were accused of witchcraft were also accused of werewolfism. This is not common in any of the witchcraft books that I had. And I started reading horrific, and it was very hard, but reading the witchcraft trial documents, the original documents. And what I was finding was that they weren't, I mean, yes, they were being tortured and all of this, but they were tying together witchcraft and werewolfery as if the two things were part of one tradition, which they were. Shape-shifting and witchcraft are locked together within the gnosis of whatever traditions were not completely suppressed. There's a great story of a this person confessed to werewolfism, and he was telling how he joined this coven. The man who pulled him into this coven was called the Lord of the Forest. And I want you to think about that for a second. The Lord of the Forest lured this guy into this coven. He said, I'll give you money, I'll give you sheep, all this stuff. And this is how it works. I mark you if you get initiated by us, and then you're in the coven. So he did all that, and of course, sold his soul to Satan and all those sorts of things, which are very, very by the side. One of the first things the master of the coven, the Lord of the Forest, did was teach them how to be werewolves. And there's always a thing of you tie on a piece of wolf skin or a wolf cloak, you rub this hallucinogenic drug salve on your body, and then, interesting enough, you go into a comatose state, and then you transform into the wolf, and then the Lord of the Forest guides you. I have seen this over and over and over and over again of people going into this trance state, and then they enter that state. Again, remember what the Vikings said. There are two ways to go through this. You put on the skin of the wolf spirit or the animalistic spirit comes up within you, and you become it. Or you go into a trance state, often with the help of some sort of psychedelic experience. You project your astral body, You inform it after obviously a lot of practice. This is what I'm finding in a lot of stuff. I found a lot of work in the about Slavic paganism, where they managed to write down more of the secrets of this. And then you go do things as a wolf. You travel as a wolf. This syncs perfectly with what shamans, Olchi Russian shamans, had told me when they came to America and I got to interview them. They said the wolf spirit comes to them, the bear spirit comes to them. When they leave, they go into a trance. They enter that spirit form. They go into the underworld. They rescue people. They heal people. Or they go roaming around looking for where the caribou are. And then they come back into their body and they tell the tribe. Now, this clearly was happening here with Native Americans as well. There's lots of stories of people going into trance state or turning into an animal, finding game for their starving tribe and coming back and saying it's there. This is not fantasy. This is not Hollywood. This is real stuff. My book and what I'm trying to do is show people that this is a way to reconnect with the animal self, that our culture, the religion we were programmed into, our schooling, everything has severed, has over and over again done its best to sever us from our animal self, i.e. our connection with Gaia, our connection with our ecosystem. This way they can enslave us, make us work, make us, they can do things like have wars and pollute the environment, and we accept it, right? Because it's not viscerally paining us. When I'm walking with my dog and he smells something that's bad or polluted, he runs. We no longer even notice. It's taking catastrophes for us to even wake up to the fact that we're utterly destroying our environment, right? We've lost that innate thing. So let me talk about werewolf magic a little bit and what is the ethos? I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like what is this about? There are three things it's about: the wildness, the weird, and the way. The wildness is the energy of pure nature. I assume that all of you have been into forests or have been into nature that has been unspoiled, without 1,000 tourists, without a lot of Coke bottles. I assume you've all been to natural places. If you can just sort of put yourself in that place for a minute. Think of a time when you have been in nature and you've had that moment of silence, mental silence, and you've had that transcendental religious moment of being one with your natural state and being one with the nature around you. Get your feet down into the dirt and just really relax, drop all that body armor. The energy that came flooding into you, I call the wildness. It is the entire aura of untouched, unspoiled nature. And it is pure medicine. It is, in fact, what Native Americans used to call medicine. So the second thing is the weird, W-Y-R-D, the weird. The weird, through my work and through my experimentations, what I found was the weird is the web work of causality and of energy and of life and death that weaves through everything and that we are unaware of for the most part. You can call it karma if you want, but it's far more than that. It's physics. It is the morphogenetic field of nature that interpenetrates us on every level. But we have, through our conditioning, through our mental state, we have walled ourselves off from it. And so we do things, people do things like they'll drink a pop and throw it on the ground, which someone who is living with the environment, someone who is tied into weird, immediately would get a pushback on that. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you killing that tree when you don't need to? We are blind often to the effects we are having because we're not tuned in. We are in our bubble. And my whole ethos for writing this book and for getting it out there is to help people to rip open that bubble and that programming that has isolated us from nature. The third path is the way, which Japanese call the wa, which is not really possible to explain deeply. It is that transcendental state of timelessness that we feel when we are one with nature. You have all felt this. I'm sure you have. You've all had a moment where you've been standing by a river or standing in the woods or standing in a desert, and you realize that 20 minutes has gone by, but you've just been in that moment, in that pure bliss of being one with Gaia, with what is so much bigger than your little nattering ego is. That is, so those are the things that I talk about in terms of what empowers this. There are three things that come out of it too. There are three gifts we get by reconnecting with our animal self: intuition, insight, and instinct. We have dulled all three of those. Our instinct is almost dead. If you hear a noise, you jump. That's instinct. But mostly we have lost our instinct. My dog knows exactly what time the sun comes up. My dog knows exactly what's in the yard at any given point, right? Through Werewolf Magic, what I have found is all three of these like werewolf superpowers have come up hugely in my life. My instinct has gotten to the point where I'll walk into a room and walk back out again. And I don't even know what it is or what energy is there, but I just know. Or I can meet people and I know. I don't even think twice. Like I can start afterwards, someone will say, "Why didn't you talk to so-and-so?" And I'm like, "I didn't even see them. Who were they?" "No, they were standing right next to you." I said, I clicked into my animal self, man. And my animal said, "No, not good. Back off." I don't think about these things anymore. I don't think about a lot of things anymore. I just do. I just live. I just exist. It's way better. I'm way happier. So I don't have a ton of time left, a little bit of time. So I don't know if you can see this. This is something I was planning to actually, wait a minute. Let me see if I can find it on here. But if I can find it, I will be happy. If I can't find it, I won't. Oh, I'll be happy anyway. I'm happy. I'm happy you're here. Thank you for coming. You're all very sweet to come. Sorry for the mix-up, but I had the wrong schedule and there was a miscommunication. I'm all set to do it tomorrow. Maybe I can do it again tomorrow. Anyway.
You were still here on time though. You're perfect.
Huh? What's that?
You got here right on time. You were perfect. You're so awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, I was just about ready to do something else and you called and I'm like, today? But my schedule says tomorrow. And then, oh, all right. Okay. All right. What the heck? I'd be a terrible like feral magic person if I couldn't just like, all right, let's do it. Like, right? I mean, oh no, I can't possibly. Oh no, that's not me. No, not anymore. Those days are done. Anyway, I don't know if you can see this. I don't know how well I can hold it up and if you can see it or not, but that's the chart that I'm going to go by. Again, this is all on my page, which is, what is it again? werewolfmagic.com. Magic with a K. You all have to go there because all of this stuff is there. Anyway, I just presented on alchemy at another conference, and I was doing feral alchemy, so it ties in with what I'm doing today. So I'm going to end with of course I have a whole lot more I can talk about, but I wanted to practice something with you. I don't know, you guys don't look very energetic, but can you growl?
It is Friday. Yeah.
Can you, huh?
That's it. We've got Friday burnout.
Friday burnout? Friday's the
totally.
beginning. Friday's like like where you step into it, man. No.
Well,
No,
we're working on that part.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right then.
Yeah.
And, I want to thank you personally for this. The whole the whole transformation into basically our higher animal selves has been something that I've been like working with on and off throughout my life as well. But
Good.
for me, it was there's always a strong South American vibe. So for me, it's about jaguar energy. And
Cool.
so I've had some opportunities to really focus on embodiment of that. But the weird thing is, when I get to like festival, like Sirius or like in Brushwood, typically, I find that what wants to channel through where I start that embodiment process is coyote energy, and which is very prevalent in the area. And then it really intensifies my psychospiritual experiences in these environments.
So
And-
you know what? You should write me, werewolfmagic.com. You can I have a you can write me there and we can have a conversation. I have a coyote skull on my altar. I have a werewolf a shape-shifting werewolf altar that I wanted to share, but I can't find my folder with all my stuff right now.
That's
But,
fantastic. Yeah, we'll definitely have to compare notes. That would be
Absolutely. So can you all growl? Let me tell you something. No. Look. All right, just listen to me. Listen to me. Most people growl like this. Right?
Yeah, right.
No. Now listen. Now listen. Now see, normally I was gonna have this set up so I could stand and do this, but so.
Wait, you should take your shirt off.
No, COVID
You
has.
should totally take your shirt off, Denny.
I actually do a
Take your
lot
shirt off and
of.
growl at us.
I do a lot of weightlifting, but COVID has wiped my body, so no, I'm not going to do that. I got tan. That's good enough. By just chance, I have this on today, but so down here, right? So one of the secrets, and you can practice this. We're gonna practice it. You don't have to do it. I'll do it, and you can be typical Americans and sit and watch the video. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna rock. You're gonna go. You start low because you don't want to blow out your vocal box.
Yeah.
And then the next activity, if I was there with you live, which I'm hoping to do next year, I will get at PantheaCon. I got 80 people doing this, and it was frigging awesome. It got out of control, which is just where I live. So it was like, and then I would work with up and down. My book talks about growl up and growl down. The goal of Werewolf Magic, what I realized was we have to stop using language. The earliest hominids, the before Cro-Magnon, the earliest hominids, the earliest pre-humans did not have speech. They were absolutely one with their animal self. Even as speech evolved, when it was very, very simple, they were able to balance animal self and the ego, which wasn't that necessary. Now we're like ego and animal self is asleep down inside of us. And by the way, as children, please remember, have a moment of remembering. If you acted like an animal when you were a child, you were punished or yelled at. And you were constantly told, stop roughhousing, stop acting like an animal. Oh, you kids are feral. Everything in our culture has programmed us to even you use the term higher animal. I don't use the term higher animal. We are animals. And until we totally accept that we are animals, just like my dog, just like a cow, just like a deer, We have higher cognitive functioning, and that's it. But they have things we can't do. Oh, I love it. Yeah! Woo! I should have worn my werewolf costume. I have a killer one. Every Halloween, I like rock the neighborhood. I scare. You know what's hilarious? Last Halloween, I'm sort of riffing a little bit here. Last Halloween, I wore my full-on werewolf costume. It's a really good one. The grown-ups were terrified. The kids, not at all. They came up and fist bumped my big hairy fist, and I taught them all how to howl. And the parents were horrified. Like I had 50 kids in the cul-de-sac going, oh, and the parents were like, and I was just like, remember, kids, werewolves are cool. So I'm doing my work as I can on this planet to free all the people from I love that costume. Oh, wait, I have that mask. That's not the one I usually wear, but that's my backup. That's my backup one. All right. So I'll talk about a couple of practices, and then I want to actually do an activity with you, and then we'll end. I see now that I'm already over 4:15. Is that okay?
Yeah, you have until 7:30 or 4.
Oh, don't even tempt me.
Yeah.
All right. Here's what I want you to do. Let's practice a little bit. All right. So I want you just to start growling. Okay. Come on, you can do it. Not here. Not her. Not here. That's a sick wolf.
Growl like me.
Here's a healthy wolf. Now, all right, I've spent 4 years opening this up, so it's going to be a little hard.
Really deep.
Now, watch. In all my werewolf magic rituals, there are no words. The invocations are all done with sounds. So, for example, you see, we work our way into a trance state with rocking. And then I start working with left, right brain with up, down, and then switch. Up brings the energy up. Down brings the energy down. To banish a circle. To earth a circle. And then to project energy. Come on, everybody.
Come on.
Now, if you've watched wolves howling and growling, which I have way more than is healthy for me, they don't just howl like that. They also do, So up howl, down howl. So I have an entire vocabulary of magical invocation that is non-intellectual. I go into the woods. My rituals I have periods where I do a few invocations, but almost all of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did this at PantheaCon, I was test driving this with people because I thought, first of all, I'm friggin' nuts. Okay, I know that. I know. I tried showing people my book. Like, I'm a serious occultist. I've been around for a long time. I've written. This is, I think, my 14th book at this point. And I go, oh, this is my new book, and people are like, that's nice, Denny. And I'm like, all right. So at PantheaCon, I had about 100 people. I said I was doing a thing on Pan, the god Pan, which is another big book that I did, and I'm really into, obviously. And so I said, okay, I've got an extra 20 minutes. I would like to try something with you guys, werewolf magic, some werewolf magic stuff that I'm writing about. Just try it out. Bunch of people left. They were like, no, thank you. And they left. That's fine. I had about 80 people stay. I had a whole full room. And I did this. I said, let's start growling. I did the growling. Let's start howling. I taught them 3 or 4 things: yipping, barking, howling, right? And on Zoom, it's really hard to do. But in a room, when everybody's there with you, it's electric. Like everybody just like snapped into it. And I had them raise their animal self. I thought, all right, it's not gonna, this is going too fast and I'm not really prepping them. No, the synergy of having 80 people do it was awesome, which is why I really want to come and do this in person with like 100 people, because you cannot believe what it's like when everybody's animal self comes up. It is like it's like a shamanic rave. It's awesome. So, and they got it right away. They got the banishing, they got the 4 quarters, they got the whole thing. We invoked Gaia. We did this whole thing and we shut it down. And they ran out of my, I earthed it, but they ran out screaming and howling all and filling the conference hall, which was wonderful. And then I got, comments the next day. Was that your group that was howling at 1 a.m? Yeah, that was me. That's frowned upon. Yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope so. That makes me happy.
yeah, people don't know how much fun it is to howl.
Well, and here's the thing. Since I have started doing this work, I have so much more fun because I'm just not worried anymore. I do not give a blank. I mean, I am who I am, and I am an animal, and I am not a dangerous animal unless you mess with me. But we are only living. Most Americans are living a quarter of their potential life.
Mm-hmm.
They're boxed in, and they're in their head. It's all here. They're all here. Like, oh no, I can't do those things. Oh no, I can't go skinny dipping. Oh no, I can't go hiking naked in the woods. Oh no, I can't do those things. We've been, the prisons are here. They're not anywhere else. Civilization has done this to us. So we can undo it. It takes some work though. And the fastest ways to get around your ego is to go to nonverbals. That's what I found. Once you start using nonverbal stuff, growling, howling, my university job has stopped because of COVID, but I was doing some of this work towards the end of it. And one of my students came up with a really lousy paper and handed it to me. And I was just standing there looking at it going, oh, right. And all of a sudden he leans over, he goes, "Are you growling?" And I was looking at his paper going, I didn't even realize it, right? I said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to growl at your paper, but really it needs a rewrite." So this is what I do now. When you all get frustrated driving in traffic, try growling. I swear. Try growling and howling instead of swearing. It's so much more cathartic. All right.
All right.
Let's do an activity and then I'll take questions and we can chat some more. Are you ready? All right. So we've done a little growling. We've done a little howling. All right. I want you just to keep that in mind. All right. Close your eyes. Take a moment. Put your feet on the earth. Okay. Let's do a little rocking and growling, and I want you to feel with every sway the energy of Gaia coming up and filling you, and with your animal self filling you and freeing you from all the restrictions and everything that's bothered you in your life. Now howl and bring your animal self and bring the energy of Gaia up. Oh. Oh. Oh! Now feel that energy flowing through your body. Feel all those layers of civilization fall off you. You are a primal Homo sapiens. You are in the jungle. You are an animal, one with your ecosystem. You're a Sasquatch. Oh, 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 oh. Now, there are 3 body centers I work with. Down here, which are the three lower chakras, this center, and this center. In Tantra, they are connected with the fire, the sun, and the moon. In alchemy, they are sulfur, salt, and mercury. All of this is on my website. In this system, we are dealing with the wildness. Oh, you can't see my crotch. That sucks. The wildness, the weird, and the way. Instinct, intuition, insight. Okay, so now that we're all tingly and full of the wolf energy, place your hands in your lower chakra, your lower center. Just low growl continually like you're purring. And listen to my words. See and feel the fire of your wildness ignite and grow in your lower body. It is the alchemical fire of the earth. Let your instincts open within you. Feel the raw power of your true animal being, stronger than you thought. And now the growl changes too. Raw, 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 raw. The fire grows. Raw, raw, raw. The fire grows and rises. Raw, raw, raw. And the flames lick the sun that starts to appear in your chest. Feel the fire rise up. Feel it light the sun, and the sun starts to expand. And the growl changes to oh, 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 oh. See and feel the rays of the sun shine and illuminate your entire body. This is the will, your strength, your willpower. Oh, 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 oh. The rays of the sun shine up to your upper chakra, your third eye, centers a moon. You are surrounded by a halo of silver, and the growl as the energy flows up, your ego silent, your animal self rises to the fore, and the chant slowly shifts to ah, 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 ah. And now we go back at the bottom again. Rah, 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 ah, ah, now howl and release it through your crown. Oh! Feel your aura flow out into nature. Your roots are deep in the earth. Your branches are full of the mountains and the rivers and the fields, all of nature. The power of Gaia flows up and through you. There is no blockage anymore. Your animal self allows all the energy to come through. Oh. 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 You feel the vital energy of the earth fill you. You have been cut off from it too long. Your roots, your branches, your paws, your claws. Now let's bring it all together. And it comes down, down, down. And we go reach down into the earth. Oh, 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 oh. And slowly we shift to ma, 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 ma. Gaia, fill us now and forever with your energy and love. To you, from you, all things. Well, that's about as coherent as I can be. My final blessing before I take questions and we just talk about whatever you want to talk about. By the wildness, weird, and way, be blessed by Gaia, come what may. May wolf spirit within you ever play, every night and every day. Can you join me for a final howl? Oh! Anyway, my book. And by the way, I'm writing a second one. I just signed a contract. Are you ready? What do you think it's going to be? It has werewolf in the title. So this is like the instruction book, right? Like this is what werewolf magic is. Lots of research. It's got the history. It's intercultural. I spent some serious work and they made me be really careful with citations and proof and all that. Okay, so this is the instruction manual. The first part is history. Second part is how to do it. What do you think the next book is? This is solo work. The next book is
Pack work.
Werewolf Pack Magic. It's due in August, at the end of August, and should be out I don't know how long it'll take to do, but so yes, that will be fun. Because I've had people come up, I do these things and people are like, well, how do you run like a whole group? And I'm like, oh, that's a really good question. So I've been collecting and putting stuff together, and I sent it to them and they were like, all right. So, all right, I've got time. I don't have anything else to do today, except this. I'm having a great time. Who has questions or who wants to chat? Or is there any more I can tell you? I've got a lot more I can say, so.
I just found it interesting that you said that this is essentially nonverbal. There's no language involved. And my daughter, who is essentially nonverbal and has a lot of problems speaking, she can say a few syllables before it just blurs out, speaks to me largely in growls sometimes. So I think she's already on this. And you
Absolutely.
totally triggered her. She was loving it. She was howling and growling, and I was like, oh my God, get out.
So this is actually, I wasn't going to have this conversation, but since you brought it up, my son is severely nonverbal autistic. And he loves that stuff too. And he and I communicate a lot of non-verbally. And I didn't really connect this with the werewolf magic stuff at all until recently. And then all of a sudden I went, oh, duh, right? But we do most of our interaction in nature. He is happiest when we are climbing a mountain or hiking through the trees, and he can't do a lot of things because he's very autistic. So he is truly a feral child. And, you know, society looks on people like my son and maybe your daughter too, as somehow not right, or, oh, they're broken or whatever. And people I know, because I tutor autistic people too, people I know who are autistic, who are verbal, are fighting that, and now using terms like neurologically typical and neurologically atypical. They're like, no, we're not damaged. We are who we are, right? And so I've started just actually recently having that conversation with myself about, you know, these are, by not being able to speak, my son has a lot of feral things, both negative and positive, but he is learning to live his life the way he is able to live it. And he's teaching me, and has taught me, of course, so much, including patience and the importance of being out in nature and the importance of growling and howling. And that, okay, so what I do as a profession is I teach linguistics, pedagogy, and methodology of language acquisition, which is very ironic on so many levels. I train teachers to teach language, right? I know, right? And here I am telling you, don't use your language. But what people don't realize is 70% of our communication is nonverbal. We know this. Like, they have videos and proof, and there's books written on it. And when two people meet, most of the really crucial things that are happening communication-wise have nothing to do with what they're saying. Body language, intonation, facial expression. We are still such animals that we are like two dogs sniffing at a park, that we are communicating. Are you hostile? Are you good? Are you friendly? Do you want to play? Are we going to get along? Are we not going to get, you know, that we're doing that constantly every time we interact. Zoom has cut that down. And that's one reason people are so dissatisfied with it. There's no pheromones. There's no intonation is cut. You know, there's none of the human weird and way that happens between people that is completely has nothing to do with language. Language only uses a very small part of the brain, several small parts of the brain. And we have been taught that using the upper cortex is the epitome of being a civilized person. And that is supposedly a good thing.
So that's really, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, I'm a university teacher. I can ramble endlessly. Please interrupt me.
That's really interesting that you say that, because my daughter's nonverbals are stellar. Like, she can communicate on a nonverbal level, whereas she may not actually be able to vocalize something in clear, understandable language. She has 35 different meanings for the word yeah. Because of tone and inflection, and because of her body language and how she carries herself. Right. And my degree is actually in interpersonal communication. It is a completely useless degree.
Intercultural communication. So there we go.
Okay, yeah. So the study of how people communicate one-on-one. And actually, the department that I graduated from started studying the decay, per se. I don't know if that's the right word that I'm using, but they started studying the essential decay of communication with the advent of technology, because of text messaging, and how people's nonverbal skills and social skills, especially with the younger generation who've grown up with that essentially, how it's actually depleting their capability of communicating on levels.
Right. That's
Yes,
true.
you totally lose inflection of voice and punctuation
Yep.
and feeling, and people don't have that anymore. So the reader is left to assume what the writer was writing, and the writer is left to hope that the reader got it. And nobody gets it, and everybody
And
ends up.
not only that, but when you do type something, let's say on social media, and you mean it one way, because people read less and have less of an understanding of what nonverbals or tone and inflection and phrases are actually being used, they misunderstand significantly
Right.
what
Right.
you're actually trying to convey, unless they're prolific readers and read a lot,
But
and
even
then they
if
can
they-
still understand. But unless they read novels and understand the dialogue between, a lot of times that's lost. Like sarcasm,
Right.
get
So,
that.
so not just that, but I know people who have gotten into fights because they text something and one person reads it one way. I mean, it doesn't even matter how good a reader you are. You see one line of text with no context, you could read it one way or another. My favorite one, New York Times has had an article that for people who are younger, putting a period at the end of a text, it shows that you're angry. So that was a new one to me. I was like, yeah, it's rude. It's rude to put a period at the end is rude. No, one thing I loved about teaching university is having a bunch of young people in my class, because they would say something, I'd go, whoa, time out. I want to hear what this slang is. Because I like that, because I follow language and I teach language, so I'm really interested in all the new slang and things. But what I found is when I'm talking about this werewolf magic stuff, it's millennials and younger people who are the most fascinated by it. And because they're like, oh yeah, that, I don't know. I think a lot of people know that they're missing something. Everybody feels like,
God, I feel old.
right. Yeah, but you know what?
It's like
I'm
last
old
year
too.
when they started calling me a boomer like it was a bad thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm a boomer. It's okay. I was born in 1962. I was a flower girl in 1969. And they're like, yeah, you guys are so dumb. We can't wait for you guys all to get old and die. So we
Well, not everybody
like,
says that.
listen to
but
this. So they told me so they could finally legalize marijuana. I'm like, wait a minute.
hey,
I smoke pot though.
I got
It's
some.
us hippies that were trying to get it legal in the first place.
I'll
You
get. I'll
dumbasses.
I'll surprise you.
They don't get it.
I'm quite a bit older than you.
Yeah, and the young kids trying to call us boomers, and they're like, but I'm
No,
like,
I
I'm
don't
trying to
care.
say boomer like it's a bad thing, but I'm proud to be a boomer. And they're like, oh, you're proud to be that.
You know
stupid
what?
shit.
You know what?
When did
Every
being a boomer
generation.
suddenly
Every
become-
generation does negative things. We are. I don't like any labels, frankly. You know.
I know. I'm mad though. They took my boomer and wrecked it.
No, they
Curiosity,
didn't.
Denny, is your
Well-
son does your son have an affinity or a connection with animals as well,
Yeah.
like my daughter? 'Cause my
Um,
daughter connects with animals way better than a lot of humans.
He does, but because he's so autistic, he has trouble understanding that animals and people are like living and have feelings. Like he's still, it took a while when we had a dog for us to say, no, you cannot bite the dog. No, and the dog can't nip you, and the dog has feelings, and it took a while. That one took a while. So that was more about the autism than anything else. But his world is utterly open to lots of to what is and is not alive and is not real. And that's the idea of what is alive. I don't know. I think I've really my life has gotten a lot simpler. I mean, I get wound up in my head, and I do the same thing most people do, where like, what am I doing tomorrow? And oh, I'm hungry, and oh, work. Oh, I have this work problem, and oh, I forgot to pay this bill. All this crap, right? And it's very, very hard for us to turn it off. It's virtually impossible. I meditate every day. I'm sure a lot of you do something similar. But I'm telling you something. If you work intentionally on reconnecting with your animal self, with what Carl Sagan called the dragon mind, it's lower cortex work. It's all here, We are 98% the same genetically as a chimp. We are 86% the same genetically as a wolf. We encode in our DNA all animals. All animals. We started with just one-celled organism, and we became lots and lots of different species, including us. We encode everything. You can access that code. I talk about it in the book that you have access to the group unconscious mind. You have access to any animal you want to reify. It's there. It's in your body. It's in your brain.
Okay, you
And-
guys both have a kid that both have like the same kind of connection, right? They both have almost well, it's like,
They're
I
different.
think
They're
that
different.
these people have a connection that's not, what's the right way to put this? They're super smart at a different level than us. But the thing is their level focuses all in one spot. Whereas we're able to
Not
do
exactly. No.
other stuff, but they get really super smart in one area, don't they? Are they really
No,
super
no,
good
no,
at
no,
one
no.
thing?
Not all of them.
Let me just
Each
talk
one
about-
is unique.
Each one is unique. And let me just
Right.
also talk about my son. I wouldn't say that per se, but what he is what I will say about most autistic people I work with, because I work with a bunch, is that they don't have the filters we have. Everything is raw. So for example, right now, I mean, I have a machine over here, a heater that is making a noise, and my dog is sometimes making noises, and cars are going by. I can tune that out. You can tune that out. We can all do that. It's part of the way our brain works. We can push everything to side, and I can listen to you talk, and you can listen to me talk. A lot of autistic kids can't filter. They are immediately in the flow of everything, which is why taking my son into nature is the greatest thing on the planet, because all of a sudden he can relax because he's in the environment that we were evolved to live in, which is nature, without cars racing by and loud noise.
Yeah, that's it.
he
I
can
don't know
be
how to phrase
himself.
it, but he knows
can
how
be
to connect
himself.
to nature better than us.
He's always connected to nature. It's just that when he's in a house, it's driving him crazy, and fluorescent light makes him crazy, and loud noises make him crazy, and being in a square room makes him crazy. And COVID right now, he's at a group home, and this COVID thing is making him nuts. But once I can get him out, once I take him out into the woods and he goes racing up and down, a trail, he is all of a sudden in his element. He can climb like you can't believe. This is a kid who is very discoordinated, has a lot of problems. Once we go mountain climbing, he's like a monkey. Can go. He's in his feral environment. He can do whatever he needs to do. So we all have the potential. We've just walled it off. We've said, I'd rather be good at algebra than being relaxed and able to climb anything. We've traded off we've moved everything to the upper cortex, intellect and ways to make money and being clever. That is what's rewarded in our culture. And that's what our whole culture wants us to do, right? But being able to connect, like there's no money in connecting with Gaia, there's no payoff either emotionally or financially for being interconnected with the planet and living in a way that is authentic, and every day is an experience of I am one with the planet. And the fear of death starts to go, because it's like, yeah, I came out of this, out of Gaia, and when I die, I'm going to go back into Gaia, and it's all okay because it's all happening all the time. So yeah, I mean, my son teaches me a lot about that. He shows me like just putting his feet in the water, he goes into a trance and like we put our feet in the water, we go, oh yeah, that's nice. Oh, it's cold. Oh shoot, I've got an appointment in 2 hours. He puts his feet in the water and it's like, he is his feet in the water, right? And isn't that how we should live? I mean, that's what my animal self teaches me. It's like, stop, look at that leaf, look at the bird. You ignore, there's a bird right there. Look, like the world and the universe is so much more amazing, but we walk around with blinders, and That's the one thing that this has done. I've written lots of occult books. I've done a lot of things. I've studied a lot of things, but in terms of interpersonal like survival and growth, I think this is probably the best thing I've done. Doesn't everything else is great and interesting. And I love, I love the Kabbalah, and I love, the intricacies of Tantra, and I write books about religion and magic, and all these things are wonderful, but nothing beats like a flower, or a perfect summer day, and you can smell the cedar, and you can hear, I mean, what is more important than that? So anyway, did I shut everybody down?
No, I was actually, when you were saying that your son climbs mountains and goes rock climbing very easily.
Oh,
Has balance.
not technical rock climbing.
Okay.
Like,
Well, when you said he climbs better in nature than he
Yeah.
does, and he has
Yeah.
balance issues generally, but in nature he can climb really well.
trees, he'll go right up a tree. He never falls.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
all thought, we were all terrified. Oh, my ex was terrified all the time. No, he's gonna get hurt. He's gonna get hurt. He's gonna get hurt. I'm like, I basically spend he spends most of his time with me. She no longer can deal with anything. But I had to go through this thing of myself, like, oh my God, this poor kid, right? He's so handicapped. No, not in nature. He's not handicapped at all. He goes
Same
right
thing
up a
with my
tree.
daughter.
He goes right up a tree like a monkey, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna fall. Nope, he never falls. He jumps on his trampoline. He goes up maybe 8-10 feet high. Never falls.
Wow.
Walking around the house, he'll trip and knock things over all the time.
We need to start to wrap up. We have got to get ready for the concert tonight.
No worries.
But
I've
so
gone
much.
much
This is
longer.
Wonderful. I enjoyed it so much.
One of the things, actually, here's something I can do. Because I haven't been looking at the chats at all. I'm so sorry. Is there any way I can take a look at the chats? Or is there any way I can get a copy of the chats? Or not? Probably not. I have not been looking at all. All right, let me put a couple things in the chat. I'm just going to send it to you right here. Just where I'm at is werewolfmagic.com. And you can reach me on Facebook as Denny Sargent. And also, I have an author page. That's on Facebook too. And I'm on Instagram at Denny Sargent Author. That's Insta. So if you want to get a hold of me, or if you want to talk to me, if there's some way to spread that around, I would really appreciate it. And you will see a bunch of stuff on my page, werewolfmagic.com, including the notes for this. I only did about a quarter of the notes. I've got quite a bit more, and you'll see other stuff there too. I'll be posting stuff regularly there. So if is anybody here in Seattle or in the Washington area? No? Yeah. So my book, do you know Edge of the Circle? Edge of the Circle books? Edge of the Circle books is in the
I'm new
University
here.
Okay, it's in the University District. It's our only occult store really in town. It's called.
I'm out in Woodinville.
Yeah, it's in the University District in Seattle, and the guy's a friend of mine. And he has copies of my book that are signed, and I like to give him the business if I can, because COVID is hurting everybody. So, is there anything else?
Can you type? Can you
Could you
type?
hold up that book again?
Can I what?
Hold up that book again.
And when you get a moment as well, I know we have to go, but could you possibly type werewolfmagic.com into the chat so it's a link? Because I just Googled it and I'm coming up with nothing. I don't know if I'm typing it in wrong.
I typed in the link to his blog.
Oh, you know what? It keeps separating. It keeps separating werewolf and magic.
Okay. I typed it in together and it still didn't come up with anything.
Werewolfmagic.com.
Mm-hmm.
Are you adding the K at the end of magic?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not coming up with anything.
Not even on Amazon.
The book comes up, but not his website.
I put it
Oh,
in the chat.
There's a video of you at the Buckland Museum of Magic and Witchcraft.
How are they
Oh, no.
spelling magic? On your webpage, how do you spell magic? M-A.
Magick. Oh, I just did it. It came up. Okay, if you have trouble, the original, those are forwarding ones. The original one is Denny, Sargent, author.com.
I just saw that. Yeah.
I just put it in
Nancy.
the chat.
Yeah, Nancy just typed it into the chat and I clicked on that and it worked great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just did Werewolf Magic and I'm on Google and it came right up. So I don't know what's going on, but now you know.
Thanks.
Yeah, it came up. Anyway, you can see me with my no hair on it. So there we go. That has all my books as well and everything else. So blah, 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 blah. I'm terrible at selling myself and I don't care. But I suppose people should buy my books so I can keep writing books.
Yes.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you
being
so
a
much.
wonderful audience. I'm sorry I wasn't quite as organized as I would have been. But on the other hand, I'm doing werewolf magic. So what? I mean, it's fine. All is
Yeah,
good.
that was fantastic. It was like getting a workshop from a werewolf.
Well, technically.
Yeah.
My
All right, my
cat
friends.
loved you.
Huh?
All
Yeah,
that
my
growling,
dogs.
my cat loved it.
Oh no, the
My
dogs
dogs
love me,
loved
man.
it too. It
Yeah,
was hilarious.
It
I
was
did
It
my
was
dog.
out of session. My dogs would perk up and their ears would perk up, and it was really funny
he came
My-
running.
and awesome.
When I go to the dog park, believe me, I'm surrounded. Anyway, much love and will to all of you, and a final howl, I suppose.
Oh,
Be wild, be feral. Don't listen to people when they tell you you're too crazy. Have fun. All right.
great to see you, Denny.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. This was brilliant.
Oh, thanks. I had a great time. Why not? You
Thank
guys are
you.
awesome. Be well.
So
Thanks, Nancy.
you're welcome. Concert will be at 8:30, so I got to put everybody in the waiting room. All
All righty. Take care.
right.
Over the waiting room for the concert. Oh, well, that.
All right, I got him on the waiting room.